You let us know when we're ready.
It's 6 o'clock.
Is that your hand in the way or somebody else's?
That's mine. Well, I don't know, that's actually
That one over there? Just scoot
waving at
over
us,
to the
fine.
side.
I'll do it.
I was gonna say, I can do it.
Just
I was
scoot
like,
it off
what?
to the side and let it
What
go.
are you trying to do?
I don't like the hand
Give me
in the
a
middle.
stick, I can just like.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
Not
are
any
we
games or
good?
anywhere else, right? Okay.
I think we're good.
All right.
Save the date, Ann.
I'm gonna go ahead and call to order the city council meeting of Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I'd like to start by reminding everybody to make sure their phones are on silent mode or in a do not disturb mode if you haven't. And, I'd like to ask Roger Mullendorf if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roger. Roger does a heck of a job on our Parks Board. All right, could I start with the roll call of officers, please?
Westwood,
Here.
Conley,
Here.
Daniels, here, Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Cuban,
Yes.
Right, I'll move to adopt the agenda as, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, and I'm going with the second from Councilmember Daniels. As I look at this, I don't think, the only thing from I don't think there's anything that was like an emergency ad, that jumps out to me. There's a couple of things we push, and I'll explain those when we get there, but any other comments on the agenda? Let's do a roll call, make it official.
Conley,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Cuban,
Yes.
Right, I will entertain a motion regarding the minutes of April 22nd, 2025.
I move to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2025.
I second.
Motion from Councilmember Ronning, second from Councilmember Conley. Discussion at the table, please.
Looks good to me.
Hearing none, can we get a roll call vote?
Conley,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes.
Cuban,
I was saying that I was not here.
All right, just, that is fine and allowed. Just for clarification, we have reached out to, the league on that, and for all council members, future and present. They have indicated that, it is still okay to vote on the minutes if you weren't there, but there's also, they've also indicated that you can abstain just 'cause.
Just
So-
cause.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Just cause or just cause?
All right, I will entertain a motion, regarding warrants payable.
Do we need to vote on that? A minute?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Did we just? Okay, never mind, I'm sorry.
Did we vote on it?
Yes, you
Yes, we
did.
did.
I got, yes. you-
Oh, yeah, she abstained, that's the discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
May I move on, Council President?
I move to approve the warrants payable in the amount of $506,453.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table.
I don't have any, I just, I didn't know if the radar signs, which I'm so glad they're here, I love them. Was the one price 12,800, or was it multiple price? Was that?
that was the price for all three
Oh, that's great, I think. Okay,
Three.
everything else was the typical Republic services and.
Yeah.
And just for public awareness, if you ever have an interest in those, there is a folder, a bin hanging on the wall just inside the lobby where you pay your utility bills. And in addition to those being available online as available, we also have a hard copy in there. The public is welcome to come review those at any time. So, all right, any other discussion at the table? Hearing none, may I get a vote, please?
Conley,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yes.
Rude,
Yes,
Cuban,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. All right, mayor's business. I have a few updates here. I'll just try to update the community on. The Rocky Fork tear down. Funding has been secured, and we are actually 2 to 3 weeks in the process of getting that torn down.
Great.
So the hoops have been identified. They are being addressed. We actually, requested the company is putting together, the bidding and kind of overseeing the different elements of that, of the demolition and the, remediation. They were the ones who came out and did the remediation and forgot to call first. It was great. Our community alert system works wonderfully. And they said that was a 4 to 6 weeks process, but they are now 3 weeks into that. We are simultaneously, there will be when they get that plan put together, that goes into DEQ for approval. We have already had a conference call with DEQ, and they have indicated the areas that they thought would be of concern and addressed, so we are expecting a fairly quick turnaround from DEQ. Once that's done, because the work is taking place in the floodplain, it will have a floodplain permit, so it'll have a similar 15-day public notice, public comment period, similar to what the bank reconstruction had. And then when that's done, it'll disappear. We will do it as absolutely soon as possible, so as not to interfere with public events. Practicality speaking wise, it may be the end of July before it's gone, just because but it will be this summer. And again, I'd say if it happened tomorrow, but I've laid out the bureaucracy that's involved week by week. That is what our delay is. Questions on that? All right, bank reconstruction. So the bank reconstruction did begin last Friday. I have not had a chance to touch base with all of the homeowners, but I've touched base with several of the property owners along there. There was initially a little bit of concern on Friday, and I think it's the equivalent of walking into your formal meeting room that's being remodeled on the first day of construction and saying, "This looks awful. I can't have a meeting in here." But even today, it's like, that looks much better. So remember, it is a site. When they're putting in the stuff for the bank stabilization, they actually clear out a little bit, and so people were seeing lawn disappear, and then it came back. And so if you get a chance to look at that, I had a chance to visit the site again today. They've started at the south end and are working out, so you can get a pretty good feel. You'll see a lot of the rock that is down. There's actually the final stage that they come in and put dirt in on top of that. But you can get a really good feel for what it's going to look like, and it's going to look good. There's about a week's worth of work left. However, given the forecast of the next week with rain, it's probably going to take a couple of weeks to get that done. When it rains, they lose access to the quarry where all the rocks come from. So that's the issue that's there. Along with addressing some of the concerns that kind of came up that were maybe not clearly relayed or understood, there were some trees that were taken out right along that bank. And we've been working with Public Works, and so when we get our Arbor Day trees, the property owners along that area are actually going to have first pick of the trees to go ahead and add additional trees along the riverbank there. So we've done that. Questions or comments on the bank reconstruction?
Was there any problem with all the runoff that we're having?
So no, the reason they started on the south end, and thank you, because I meant to include that as an update. We are watching that, and I've shared the sites that we monitor and watch with the project manager, so he has that to watch as well. They started on this end because that was the most critical spot. So the answer is, the part which we were the most concerned about, erosion and critical stuff right now, is now done. So
Okay.
that won't happen. And so there's still additional stuff to be happen. But if the high water hit next week, it is not anticipated that it would cause any additional damage. It could inhibit the work
Right.
and slow the work down, but the part that was the most critical, that they were worried about has actually been addressed, and they continue to do that. So like I said, I'm hoping the high water doesn't hit next week. But the part that we were the most worried about is now past tense.
Okay, good.
They still have to add the wax, the polish,
Yeah.
but the part that keeps it from eating away the banks is done. All right, speed signs. Thank you for mentioning that. So our vehicle feedback signs, as they are officially known, have been installed. Those are all on solar, thanks to Brian Hanna in Public Works. That was one of those projects that I handed off to Brian and said, we make this happen, and he did a fantastic, wonderful job. that's your resort tax dollars at work too. So thank you to the public for allowing us to use that. Hopefully that will be something that makes an impact, in town. I'll admit, it was frustrating to go to Fishtail, and they have one on each entrance into town, even though it's 20 feet apart, and then we didn't have ours yet. So we're caught up now, and I think that'll be a good addition. Pool prep is happening. The new heater is gonna be, finalized this week. The goal is to get that fired up on May 26th. The tentative opening for the pool is scheduled for June 3rd. However, there's a really big asterisk next to that it may be later. Part of that is availability. One of the frustrations, and this is part of the conversation when we decided whether we were having a year-round pool or just a summer pool. One of the big challenges in Red Lodge is and always has been staffing. So as it sits right now, we don't have as many lifeguards as we had hoped for. They are still hiring, not only lifeguards, but instructors. So if you're interested or know anybody who's interested, please reach out to Mike Maples or the front office, and those positions are listed on the city webpage as well. As it sits right now, what will happening is we'll probably end up having some limited pool availability based on staffing. What the current proposal is that it's going to be closed on Mondays. Again, if you'd like to solve that problem, find us a couple extra lifeguards and we'll get it open.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I should have brought this up at the meeting earlier, but there's a boiler problem.
So the boiler is the heater.
But the pool is very new. Why are we experiencing a boiler problem?
Let me be diplomatic about this.
Good question?
Well, there is, but there's also a good answer. The technical term is the boiler went kaput.
Okay,
There's a question as to whether it was appropriate boiler for the facility, whether it was appropriately installed, whether it was appropriately maintained. And as you can imagine, there's fingers going everywhere.
okay.
The answer is, it was a problem that has been fixed. We received a credit for the one that we had, and we have a more capable boiler in, and our operations spin up for the year has been changed, and we have them come out and start it up. So hopefully we have addressed, no matter where the problem came from, we have it addressed going forward.
Great, and so it shouldn't be any more problems in the future.
I don't anticipate that there will be
Okay,
problems, but
great.
I'm not dumb enough to say there will be no problems.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Did I understand the question and answer it properly?
You did?
All right. Help us recruit lifeguards and instructors, both. Next week, resort tax, for the state, there's a resort tax, help me with the word for it. What do they call that? Statewide committee body, is gonna be in town on
Wow.
Tuesday and Wednesday, just be aware. It's not a large crowd, but we certainly we like showcasing our town, particularly for all those folks that think about resort and tourism dollars. On the 27th through 30th of May, the Urban Renewal District has a team from Kansas State that's coming in and doing a visioning exercise. You may have seen a survey that was out and available on the website and through various social media sites. There is a public meeting on Friday, the 28th, for that. The public is absolutely invited to come to that, but welcome to kind of see what that schedule is and be involved in that, as much as possible. There is a public meeting this Friday at 3, I want to say, that's an off-schedule meeting, so anybody who's interested in it's kind of final preparations for that.
Where will that meeting be?
The Friday meeting will be here, and I believe they're finalized. I think the public meeting is going to be at the Roosevelt Center.
Yep, 6 to 8,
So,
and then I think there's 2 informal meetings prior to that as well.
yeah, and there will probably be, so feel free to reach out to people on the Urban Renewal Board with questions or concerns or input, or this Friday at 3 would be a great opportunity to get some of those questions answered.
Got it.
Webpage update. So, you'll see on the document today, we have both our growth policy draft and our capital improvements plan, often referred to as the CIP, are out there. If you just go to the front page on the webpage and go news, you'll see growth policy documents, and you can get into that. Those are, because we're in those final stages, those are getting updated like weekly. There was a couple of edits that were made tonight that'll probably be up there tomorrow, but what you have prior to that. So the planning board will be discussing the growth policy tomorrow, and then I believe the CIP is the goal is to have that before this body in 2 weeks for a public hearing on the capital improvements plan and get that finalized. Also, on the web page, if you go to the web page right now, you're gonna see the carbon alert sign, the carbon alert, or the banner as you come in. So just by going to the web page, you're gonna see alert that says, hey, it's flood season. There's a link you can go to go out and monitor the water flow and height upstream. You can copy that link and put it on your devices or phone. That's kind of what I do to watch it. And that's also where you can sign up for Carbon Alert. So if you haven't signed up for Carbon Alert, that's our official emergency notification. The other thing kind of along that line is our siren works really, really well, absolutely at noon every single day, weekends, holidays, everything. If you hear it other than noon, I would recommend you go to the city webpage or Carbon Alert and see why it's going off other than noon. So we have the ability to come down and basically send out alerts and use that system, and we know it works because we test it every day.
Right.
The other question kind of related to that time of year is sand and sandbags. So at a very, very high level, individual property owners are responsible if you've got concerns for sandbagging their own property. Having said that, the county and the city maintain sand reserves with the primary purpose of protecting our infrastructure as needed. So if you think about the power or the things that we have out there. However, historically, what we have done is made that sand available to interested parties on an as-needed basis. They can come up and do that until it is no longer available. If we get to that point, that will be up at the fairgrounds. The request to the community is wait until you need them. They don't store. Like you can't put sand in bags and use it next year. So it's kind of a this year thing. And then if you come get that when it's done, reach out and we'll have you come drop the sand back off into those piles to make sure it's disposed of properly if they don't get used. Any other questions or that you may have been getting from your constituents about getting to be that time of year?
Just an uncomfortableness.
Yeah, we don't spend a lot of effort trying to fix normal.
Yeah.
We are at a higher snowpack than we were last year. We're at normal snowpack, but more impactful than the snowpack is the rain, the temperatures up high, and how fast that melts. We have Serena at the county is checking in with several different sites and national weather. We get updates. So I've already had a couple of weeks ago. So we get those updates any time of day or night. They're on the breakthrough in the middle of the night list. And I speak with the county at least weekly on it. So we are monitoring that closely, and we don't want to cause any undue alarms, but please know that we are monitoring it. And if there's questions, please feel free to reach out and ask. And we'll try to keep the latest information that's relevant on that website off that alert page as you log in. Okay. Next category, approved events. The Ren Fair is going to be coming to town June 7th and 8th. After last year's issues, there was a significant, I don't want to say skepticism. We made them address parking concerns and traffic concerns. We've got a significant squad assembled, and we have reviewed. In fact, I was in a meeting today with our chief of police and with the county sheriff and all of those event organizers, including BHA, the Beartooth Humane Alliance, who takes care of our cats and dogs and all those sort of things. They are using this as a fundraising opportunity for them. And so they are bringing in 20 plus folks to help with the parking, which is significantly better than the 2 we had last year.
Great.
And so they are doing that. However, also, there's no such thing as too many volunteers. So if you know anybody who's interested, have them reach out to Jenny Still at BHA. There's a Friday evening meeting involved, and then 4 hours helping with parking, and that gets you a family pass to go to the medieval festival for free. And then they are in turn making a donation to BHA, so you're kind of doing two good things in one. Questions? Okay, a new one that has come up this year is there's an application that has been approved for a carnival up at the airport. It's actually on the south end of the airport, the same week as 4th of July. So they'll be here the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then also on the following Saturday.
And
So-
that's been approved?
That has been approved.
Where is it?
So, do you know where the Spoons store is?
Yeah, Earlywood.
On Earlywood, it's just south of Earlywood, and all of that space out there.
So where the Black Pile used to be.
So, so it's gonna be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because the 4th is a Friday, so then it's gonna go into that.
And also
weekend,
include the Saturday,
the Saturday.
okay?
2nd through 5th.
So it went out, as all of our events do, it went out to all of our, department heads, EMS, fire, police. They all said they had issues. There were several people involved with all the conversation, and this particular event being on the carnival, on the airport, within their bounds, actually went to the airport to approve, and the FAA came back and said, put lights on this, flags on that, and they came back and said, we can address it from where we are.
So it won't be, because, I mean, the airport gets heavy use those days.
During those days.
Yep, it's not shutting down the airport.
No, I know that, but I mean, they won't, it's
Yeah.
off to the side, I guess I'm trying to say.
I'm smart enough not to say never.
I'm like.
But all of the recommendations and precautions are being addressed. And what we'll do is we'll evaluate it and see what the impact is. I didn't know this until well after the fact, but apparently, it's something the rodeo had looked at for multiple years, trying to figure out how to facilitate. It's something that's very common. Carnivals and rodeos kind of right next to each other. And, so while there's a lot of overlap in all those groups, I actually didn't have a formal conversation with the rodeo board until yesterday, and he was excited. He says, I understand where they're coming from, and from a community standpoint, and I think we'll look at this to try to figure out, one of the comments when it came up at the business meeting yesterday was, why didn't we tell them no? And it was kind of like, based on what, right? So
Yeah.
they met all the rules, they met all the requirements, and everybody approved it, and we'll make an evaluation of it. And as a board, we'll have to figure out how is it we address if we say an event is bigger
Bad for
than
the
what,
town.
is bigger than what the town can handle. But having said that, I think everybody is on board with making sure it's a successful event. The other thing I want to,
Mayor,
yes,
on that, I did receive a constituent's complaint on that.
okay,
And the theory is that you go to the parade, and once the parade is over, the people go and they eat locally and they shop locally until 4 o'clock on the 2 days. And the fair is gonna be drawing them out of the downtown up to the mountain. So that was the complaint. The
Okay.
complaint was that you're actually draining the downtown of business.
and we'll monitor that. There was also an argument that basically said, there's a lot of people who don't stick around and go to the rodeo because they don't know different ways to kill the hours between the parade and that. So we'll monitor it for a year, and we'll factor that into future decisions.
I'll let them.
But we've got to figure out how to avoid selectively, yes, that's, making that determination of what's good and what's bad. One thing I'd like to offer is that, or additional thing I wanted to share, is that the Carnival has donated several thousands of dollars of tickets that they're gonna make available to those kids and families that might not be able to attend the carnival otherwise. And so we are gonna be working with our police department. I think for now, if you have an interest in that and you wanna, I'm gonna look at Lonnie, make sure I'm not getting too much trouble here. Can they just call the front desk and request their name be put on a list? So if you'd like to be on the list to receive some of those tickets, just call the front desk and we'll go from there. We'll be working with our police department probably to help allocate those tickets and make sure they get used.
Can I ask, what are the hours that they'll be operating? 'Cause typically carnivals stay open until midnight. I'm just
They,
curious.
I think their report, and I'm going off my memory, was like 10, or possibly it wasn't going till the full midnight.
Okay,
And they said if there's noise concerns, there's things that they can shut down at 10 o'clock to make it not make as much noise.
and it's a full-blown, is it like a branch of the ones that go around to all the different fairs and stuff?
It's that same group
Okay,
that's been doing it.
Okay.
okay.
So this
I'll
is,
check it out.
this is not somebody's backyard carnival. This is
No,
a-
yeah,
They do billings, they do, so.
I always wondered why Bud Lodge never had a carnival, so.
Agreed.
It's come up multiple times, so we'll try it and see how it works.
Yeah.
We do it in August.
Really?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how much we can bring into
They're
town that way.
usually, like they said, usually they're part of a rodeo or they're part of the fair,
Mhm.
you know.
Yep.
All right, lastly, I think we're good. Wow, I'm taking a whole half hour. According to our charter, 3.04, section 11, the mayor gets to appoint, that he appoints committees with the approval of council, except that the mayor may appoint without consent of the council temporary committees established by the mayor. I would like to announce that I am forming a bear-aware community that will be the city's representation in the larger bear-aware movement that we've had several things. In fact, this Wednesday, tomorrow night, there's a bear-aware event at the tap room. You can go to that. So we're working with the surrounding areas. We're working with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And this is just kind of this is the group that their main mission is to help eliminate human-bear conflicts. And so I would like to nominate you that, or I am nominating, because I don't even have to, not that it would be a problem, but I'm just exercising my mayor muscle. And people may be added and or step away from this community at their desire. But Susan Hovde is on that committee, and she's been coming to those meetings. B.R. Walker down at Yellowstone Wildlife Sanctuary has been very actively involved in those meetings. I have Corey Thompson there from a trash and sustainability presence, and that may shift to somebody else within that. My favorite volunteer, Kristen Westwood, who I happen to know has gone to many of those human-bear conflict things over the years because I've been drug along on them, is also going to be on that initially as well. So I would like to have you join me in thanking them for and if you hear about other people that are interested, but you may hear them being involved with your public works and our trash discussions, and just to kind of with that focus of the eliminating human-bear conflicts. All right, and yeah, I hope we've made some significant changes over the years. Many years ago, Red Lodge started including bear cans as one of the weighted scores inside of our trash contracts. This year, it was a requirement. You couldn't submit unless you could do that. I mean, in theory and practice, it's been that for a few years, but we just made that as a clear statement this year. Update on that is still out for bid, so it'll still be a few weeks before we hear anything more on that. Anything else from the mayor's chair? All right, thank you. All right. Next on our agenda is public comment. There are two periods of public comment to make sure that we accommodate folks. One is now, and then there will be one at the end of the meeting. In addition to that, for all of our action items, 9A through F, there will be a public comment section before we take action on those, okay? And then at certain times, we may invite the public to comment in during the council work session as well, as is appropriate. But at this time, what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and open public comment. If you'd like to address the board, we'll look to the chamber first. Please address your comments to me, the chair. It's not a discussion, it's public comment. And you'll be timed and you'll have 3 minutes to address anything that's within the council's purview. And with that, I'll go ahead and open the public comment. Seeing nothing in the chambers, I'll look to online. If you can turn on your camera or turn off your mute, that'll be an indication to me that you'd like to speak. This is where I talk very slowly and say going twice, once, twice, and we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Again, that won't be your last chance. we'll have opportunities to do that throughout the meeting. So the first, agenda item we have tonight is addressing a council vacancy. Doug Miller, in fact, I meant to check in with him. He is leaving our community. That may be delayed. They're having some family issues, medical that they're dealing with. So our thoughts are with him, even though he is not with us tonight. We posted that for several weeks. We received, 2 notices of interest. And so what I'd like to do is we start this conversation. I'll just kind of give an overview. We'll give those 2 candidates each an opportunity to speak. They will speak in the order that the letters were received. So we'll hear, first from, Lee Stevens, and secondly from Patty Davis. And everybody at the table will tell you, don't worry that I paused on your names. That's normal. I have it written down when it matters. This will not be a timed thing. This is a special thing. So you'll each have an opportunity to address the council. At the end of that, we will bring the discussion back to the table. We will we'll open the floor for nominations. One, none, or all can be nominated. There'll be a motion to close the nominations, even if I have to solicit it. We'll close the nominations. We'll have a discussion, and then we will vote in the order of the nominations that were there. Assuming that we receive a member of interest who receives 4 votes or more, this is absolutely one of those cases where I'll not vote, because I only get to vote if there's a 3-3 tie, and with 5 people, even my math says that's an impossibility. So we'll continue until we get to that point. Assuming we get somebody, we will then seat them to council, and we will proceed with our meeting. If for some reason we don't, I'll make a determination if we're going to give it a couple of more passes and go around, or if we're in a position of reopening the position. We have that. We are required to fill it within 90 days. We try to keep it not empty right up front. So with that, thank you. And Mr. Stevens, you have the floor. If you dress up here, then kind of stand close, then that mic will pick you up and everybody can hear you.
Respectfully, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer the other candidate the opportunity to go first.
That is your option. Ms. Davis, would you like to speak? If you come up close enough where we could hear you, that would be wonderful.
Is this close enough, or?
Well, this thing right here is where the people at home can hear you.
I don't know who to address.
This is your audience right here. They'll eavesdrop.
Okay. Hi, my name is Patty Davis, and I've been living here in Mud Lodge, Montana since 2009. We relocated my family up here. My in-laws live in Cody, and so they said this was the best place to raise a family. So we relocated from New Mexico and started my career with the chamber here, part-time, and then full-time as the director of the chamber. And I helped transition that to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So it's part of the Governor's Conference on Tourism and a lot of writing to get that status with partners in the community. My academic career is in recreation and tourism as well, and I work for many facilities in recreation and tourism. So I have a strong passion for travel and leisure, and I believe it's truly important for a community. So I've just raised my family here, and now I work in the insurance realm. I've been with Jamie Anderson, State Farm, and Ron Sanchez, State Farm before that, for 10 years in August. And I took a break from anything outside of my employment duties from the community, but now I feel like I'm ready to get back to volunteer and contribute to the community and get back involved with the city and learn more about it and just try to help out and contribute again. So thank you for the opportunity and opening this position.
Don't sit down yet.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the table that could be addressed to the candidate?
I just wanted to make sure that she's, 416 North Broadway, that's in Ward 1.
Oh, 405.
I think you're reading the
I see.
Yeah, I'm
address.
sorry.
I was looking for any address.
Thank you.
I looked, what's your address?
405 North Word Avenue
Ah.
on Word and Seventh.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for asking that.
It is worth noting that we did, and I should have mentioned that, we did have one applicant who applied who was not within the appropriate ward boundaries, was in Ward 3, and I had a follow-up conversation with that, so,
Oh,
in a way, I'm glad that you mentioned that, so I can say we received 3, one of them was DQ'd.
okay.
All right,
Maybe he'll run again, or she'll.
thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lee, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Lee, I think that's a song.
We've already been through songs this evening. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Gentle ladies of the council, thank you. My name is Lee Stevens. I reside at 522 Airport Road, Apartment C5, Red Lodge, 59068. I have been a resident nearly 6 years of Red Lodge, all the time at that location in Ward 1. In the last 5 years or so of my residency here, I began to step out about a year into my my stay here, and I began to volunteer, and I began to work in conjunction with certain city and county organizations. In the general election of 2020, I began to work with Carbon County Elections Committee, starting off as a poll watcher. I was recruited, so to speak, by Crystal Rosario in the following cycle to become an election judge. I've done that for a few cycles, and then I was promoted last year to chief election judge by Crystal Rosario. I've been a member of the Elks organization for nearly 4 years. I've held the leadership position of trustee. Currently, I'm inter guard and assistant bar manager. And some of you may know me from my role there, serving at the bar, and I think service is really the question, which is what has brought me here tonight, because in addition to what I've already done, I believe that it would be a good opportunity for me and for the city to serve in this capacity on the city council. If chosen, I look forward to working with each and every one of you to ensure the continued tranquility and prosperity of the city of Red Lodge. And with that, I'll leave it up to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, don't leave yet. Any questions from the table for Mr. Stevens? All right, hearing none, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, I've always wanted to say that. No. All right, so with that, what I will do is I will go, do I need to get a motion to open nominations, or do I open nominations? You open them. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open nominations to fill the council vacancy in Ward 1. Councilmember Root.
I would like to nominate Patty Davis.
Okay. There's a nomination for Patty Davis. Do I have a sec? Actually, I don't get seconds on, do I get seconds on nominations? No seconds. All right. Are there any further nominations? Either further nominations or a motion to close nominations will be accepted.
Motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations. Do I think a second there?
Okay.
I'll go ahead and take that. All right, with that, let me go ahead and bring that to the table for, I maybe should have done any further discussion, point that, is there any further discussion before we take a roll call vote?
Yeah, I would like to thank both of the applicants. I know that Lee has been working very hard and trying to get on the city council and running for office, and how stressful that can be, to say the least, and I appreciate his tenacity. And I know that I worked with Patty years and years ago, so it's a very familiar face. And I appreciate both of you stepping forward.
You're here.
I will second that. This is oftentimes thankless, and sometimes it's worse than thankless, just so you know. Last chance to withdraw. All right, any further discussion at the table? Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Cupen?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Patty, if you would love to step to the front of the room, we're gonna take a small break, and our city clerk is gonna swear you in, at which point you will become Council Member Davis.
I'm just stretching.
Davis, there's the
I'm
hesitation.
afraid to get up because I don't think.
Put that down.
Thank you, Lee.
You know what?
Okay.
I told Tony, I'll call you if I need an emergency, I'll be back.
So we're taking pictures. Do affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Montana, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as city councilperson, City of Red Lodge, with fidelity, so help me God.
And we approve you in that office.
I know.
And Mr. Stevens left, but they both had the homework to be prepared and ready for tonight, so.
Yeah.
I think she'll probably come up this way.
Yeah.
Come on up. Come up. Oh, yeah.
Councilmember Davis,
Give her
would
the
you please join
103
us?
pages for tonight.
I think
Whichever
she
way
can
she
get behind me, so, I'm sorry, it's a terrible day to have a big cushy chair.
Oh, you went with a big cushy? Oh, of course you did. Of course you did. Never mind.
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't do 2 hours in one of those.
Oh, no, oh, no. I think you're gonna have trouble in that one.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I still have it here too, if anybody gets.
Oh, my gosh,
The
no, my,
rule is you
my
have
whole
to
head.
warn me before you hit me.
You bring
I
my
get a verbal
I mean,
before I get hit.
I have full access to this thing.
All right, thank you and welcome aboard. So, without further ado, let's move directly, I will entertain a motion for ordinance number 972, and if the motioner would please make sure to include, the public hearing and first reading in the motion.
Yes, I will make a motion to, approve ordinance of the city of Red Lodge, Montana, establishing the process for marijuana businesses within the city of Red Lodge. Or public hearing, first reading, sorry. It's been a minute.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tupin, and I believe it was a second from Councilmember Daniels.
Find your letters, right?
All right, so this is a public hearing in addition to the first reading, but before we go to the public hearing, what I'd like to do is have an introduction or discussion at the table, and then we'll go to the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back to the table.
Yeah, so this was brought to admin and finance specifically because, we have changed the laws in Red Lodge for a vote to allow for marijuana businesses years ago. And this was to actually clean up the process for what happens for not just when an application comes in and a new marijuana business comes in, but also what happens during the transfer and the longevity of that. So if a new business were to come through, if one were to fail, and truly just making sure that we have a more well-rounded process for marijuana businesses within our city. Any questions from the council on this? I feel like we've had a few discussions on this already. I do know that there has been a recent addition to that. Specifically, there's nothing contained herein that shall force or require a business to relocate. However, should an existing marijuana business reside at a location that has been rezoned, so specifically as we go into a rezoning or go to reevaluate zoning this summer, if we were to rezone a location, that business would not be required to relocate, but they would have the option without having to go through a full application process. So,
Yeah, and so they would not have they would not be disincentivized from considering a new location by opening it up to the masses. There was, edit that will be, motion that will need to amend. It was pointed out that, the last, on the first page is Title IV, Chapter 5, Section 5. the next one on section 2 is also Title 4, Chapter 5, Section 5, and it should be Section 6, and therefore the one below would also be Section 7. So when we get to that point of the meeting, the council president has given me a little note that she will be amending that.
Yes.
Good catch, good catch.
Well, you caught it last time, but we forgot.
Okay, so is there any other discussion at the table before we go to public comment?
Does the description of the ordinance have to include chapter 5, title 4?
I do not believe so, but I will defer to our city clerk.
No, because I think if it states it within the body of the, don't think it, well,
Is there a problem when you're searching?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
it's always been
Okay.
the search issue.
We can do that, so basically,
Amend-
discuss process and update?
are we amending the?
No, because that doesn't exist in code right now.
So you're just.
So is it an update or an add?
Add.
Yeah, so we'd be amending the ordinance.
No, but when if we're amending the title, is it to add,
To include
Yeah.
to include, okay?
Yep.
marijuana, chapter 5, well, however you want
To
to say.
include chapter 5 marijuana businesses.
Yes.
City clerk, does that meet our requirements?
Yes.
All right, marijuana business. We'll look for that as part of the motion as well when we get there. Good call. Thank you, Councilmember Conley. Any other discussion at the table before we go to public comments? All right, a reminder, this is a first reading, which means that there will be another meeting in 2 weeks before this, and this being an ordinance will take effect 30 days after that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and we'll start with the council chambers. Seeing no one rushing the stand, we will go to online and see if there's any public comment from online. Again, if you could turn on your camera, or alternatively, at least unmute your button, wave a hand, anything that would let me know you were interested. I've stalled long enough with my discussion, we'll call that going once, twice,
3 times a lady.
and 3 times. We'll go ahead and close the public discussion. All right, bring the discussion back to the table. Any further discussion at the table?
Just that, I don't know if everyone got a chance to read the letter in the packet that was submitted last time. Just, she wanted to make sure everyone read that.
Yes,
And that was included within the packet this time for public comment as well.
yes.
She was unable to attend the meeting. All right. We currently have a motion on the floor to approve ordinance 972. I believe there was talk of a motion to amend.
I move to amend ordinance 972, first in the title, to add and include chapter 5 marijuana businesses. And
Where are you gonna put, so how's it gonna read?
an ordinance of the
At the end.
city of Red Lodge, Montana, establishing the process for marijuana businesses within the city of Red Lodge and include chapter 5 marijuana businesses. Is that, how did you want to read it?
I would
Okay.
say chapter 5 marijuana businesses located in Title 4 of Red Lodge City
Thank
Code.
Exactly what you said.
Yes,
Thank you.
I second that motion.
Well,
Well,
wait,
we're not done.
I've got-
There's more.
we
Oh,
only
wait,
wanna
there's
do
more.
four, I know.
Okay.
And, changing, Title 4, on the second page, Title 4, Chapter 5, Section 5 should read Title 4, Chapter 5, Section 6, revocation. And, the paragraph after that, Title 4, Chapter 5, Section 6, should now read Title 4, Chapter 5, Section 7, all marijuana businesses operating within the city of Red Lodge.
Now?
Caught it.
Now.
I second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Conley. Any discussion at the table? All right, we'll do a vote on the motion to amend.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
Motion to amend passes. Now we'll go back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Would you please hand this down to the city clerk? I think she has scribbles, but she can have mine just if that helps. All right, I will entertain a motion for resolution number 3691.
I move, to approve resolution number 3691, a resolution of the Red Lodge City Council notifying the Carbon County Administrator of the city's desire to conduct the 2025 general election by mail ballot in accordance with Section 13-19-202 Montana Code Annotated.
I second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table.
This is, we talked about it last time, this is just letting them know that we want our general election for the city of Red Lodge to be by mail ballot, otherwise it would be an in-person ballot. And by doing,
And a bill associated with it.
yes, and a bill associated with it, so, I think the county is doing theirs as mail, so as long as we're doing it all together, they don't charge us for it.
Which is good.
Yes.
We may even get a better turnout.
All right, any discussion at the table? I'm gonna go ahead and open it for public discussion. Looking in the chambers, going to online, any public discussion on the resolution about mail ballots?
Just say, be it
Going once,
or it be.
twice, 3 times, we'll go ahead and close the public discussion on that, thank you. Further discussion at the table?
I was just wondering if it should say, now therefore be it resolved, instead of it be resolved. It doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think it ends up being the exact same meaning.
We usually say be it,
I know,
but
I have zero objection.
it be
we
it.
don't want it to be.
It be, you don't like you bit, it
We're gonna
be?
be it.
We're gonna be it, or it be?
Yeah.
I'm hearing chatter, but I'm not hearing a motion to amend.
I move to amend it to say, now therefore be it resolved, as opposed to now therefore it be resolved.
There's a motion on the table.
Second.
There is a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember,
Conley.
Councilmember Conley, second from Councilmember Tupin.
That's me.
Is there discussion on the motion to amend?
No.
All right, hearing none, let's do a roll call on the motion to amend.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Browning?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
All right, back to the main motion, further discussion, roll call, please.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Browning?
Yes.
Rude? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. I will entertain a motion for number 3692.
I move to approve resolution number 3692, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Red Lodge to create a separate fund for the Economic Development Administration Grant Funds.
I second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Tupin. Discussion at the table.
So this is specifically just a bookkeeping item, so that we have a separate line item for our grant funds and for the grant expenses. So our auditors can, and we can keep track of how the money is coming in and how it's being spent.
I had a question. It says this fund number shall be used in fiscal year 2025. That's only the next 2 months. Is that true, or is it supposed to be 2026?
No, the fiscal year starts in 2025.
Yeah, it'll still be
It
2025.
says shall be used in fiscal year
So
20.
right
25.
now, we're in fiscal year 2024.
We
is the
are.
answer.
Mhm.
Okay, there, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So think of it as fiscal
Got it.
year,
It's like
Beginning in.
July to June.
yeah,
Yeah.
beginning
Okay.
in, not ending in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Why can't we? do
Additional
that?
questions at the table? All right, hearing none, can I get a vote, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Browning?
Yes.
Rude?
Yes.
Tupin?
Yes.
The resolution passes. I will entertain a motion for resolution 3693.
I move to approve resolution number 3693, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Red Lodge, Montana, to terminate the interlocal agreement for the administration of the Red Lodge Roberts Ambulance.
I'll second that. Everyone will.
So-
I have a motion from Councilmember Ronning, and I'm gonna go with the second from Councilmember Rude.
Got it.
All right,
All right.
we'll go.
So, this is coming about because the voters, voted, to create a whole new district, countywide district. So, the county is therefore, going through the paperwork, and we are to eliminate the prior district, because we will now be part of the new district. anything else to add? No, good on that?
I just liked it because the voters voted.
The voters voted. The voters decided.
You just
I
paused.
think voters
I-
voted.
Any further discussion at the table before I go to, somebody let me get through that last one without public comment. I would have. You can jump in.
Our new council person would like to say something.
Good job. First thing she has to learn.
I was just wondering if that's correct in the special mill levy to fund the provision of emergency.
Oh,
If
good.
that
Special mill
matters.
levy to fund, we probably need to, wait, that sounds like a motion stirring.
Uh-huh.
Good.
Your first motion, your first motion.
Okay, delete.
I make a motion to
Amend.
amend, resolution number 3693.
You don't have to read all that.
Oh, okay.
The amendment is.
Okay, in the mill levy to fund the provision, to remove one of the two funds.
There you go.
I'll second that.
There's a motion from Councilmember Davis, a second from Councilmember Conley.
Yep.
As we bring that to the
Another
table, I'm gonna
person.
look to our clerk and see if that's a valid catch or if there's a reason that it says what it says.
That's a valid catch, I didn't catch it.
All right.
We
Any
know
other
what's
discussion at the
possible.
table? All right, let's do a roll call on the motion to amend.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes,
Stephen?
Yes.
All right, any further discussion at the table? I didn't do public input on this one yet, right?
No, you have not.
I'm gonna go ahead and open public input for any comment regarding resolution 3693. Opening public comment. Nothing in the chambers, going online, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Let it never be said that we don't offer opportunity for public comment. Public comment is closed. All right, any further discussion at the table? All right, let's do a roll call on 3693, please.
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth?
yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Motion passes. I will entertain a motion for resolution number 3695.
I move to approve resolution number 3695, a resolution of intent to annually adjust the City of Red Lodge's water and sewer rates and charges and setting a date and time for a public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, a motion from Councilmember Ronning, a second from Councilmember Daniels. Discussion at the table.
So this is just the first step. It's setting a date in the future of June 24th, 2025 for a public hearing on our annually adjusted water and sewer rates. 5 years ago, we had created this same thing, and it was in effect for 5 years. It's now expired, so if we do not do this moving forward, our rates will not annually adjust. We would have to actually we'd have to
Have the conversation.
we'd have the
each year.
conversation every year. So this sets a cap of 3% for that rate increase, but they will increase by inflation rate as long as it's not over 3%. This itself is just, like I say, the first step, setting the public hearing date. We still have to go through the motions of all the public hearings and everything, so.
We'll do a mailing out to all of
Yep, I was just gonna have the city clerk kind of give us an overview of the whole process in her outside voice.
I would also ask whether we need to refer to Title 10, Chapter 8, Section 1 in the title of the resolution,
No, because this is just a resolution of intent to.
not an
adjust them.
ordinance.
It's not an ordinance, no,
Okay.
we're not changing city code with this, we're just, so,
Good.
like Jody said, we did this 5 years ago. The one thing we did change though, where the current one we're in that expires the end of June this year, it had a hard end date. This one, we put in there that it would be, reviewed, every 5 years. It's not gonna end every 5 years, but it will be reviewed every 5 years. So there's not a stopping point on it like before, but they need to be reviewed every 5 years to make sure.
Does the full process not need to happen every 5 years? I was thinking that you had to have a public hearing on it
Mm,
every 5 years.
mm.
Okay, that's just a byproduct of the instrument itself that created that 5 years.
Yeah.
Do we have the option of doing it sooner than 5 years still?
Mhm. Yeah, you can, I mean, if you guys, if something was to come up, you know, and the council felt like they needed to look at them, that you guys have the right to do that. You don't have to wait the 5 years, so.
I have a question, and this is a question for council, I'm just observing it. In number 2 on the second page that talks about, well, that's curb stop fee specifically that talks about 3%. Curb stop fees will not be adjusted to the inflation rate variable used by the city to update water and sewer rates, and charges will not exceed 3%, even if the state determines the inflationary rate is above 3%. So the only call out I would make there is that our current, and those are always subject to change, but they tend to change in one direction, our current, union contracts have that cap at 4%. Is council comfortable leaving this at 3% cap if our union rates are 4, or would you like it to align?
I like the idea of the review.
Okay?
I think, we should review it and just make sure that we're okay. How long does the union contract last?
It's renegotiated every 3 years, well, let me rephrase that. That's variable, but currently it's renegotiated every 3 years. That can be set in it. And again, we have the option, my understanding is we have the option of discussing it sooner than that. So I think what I'm hearing from council is more comfortable leaving it at 3% with the understanding that if there's a need to come back and adjust it, we could do that. It would just be an out of cycle. It would require an additional action by the council.
Yeah.
Did I understand that properly?
Mhm. Additional justification for the purpose why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, my understanding is the main reason why the rates have been set this way is so that we continue to be eligible for grant funding and, borrowing money for water and sewer projects. So I think that if that starts to become in jeopardy again, or we start to get behind, then absolutely we would want to revisit this. But if this has been working, then I don't see.
Yeah, this keeps us ahead, and that's a good point, and particularly if you look at the Public Works report and the list of projects and stuff that we have done, we've done an awful lot of things with water and sewer and stormwater, and when predating 5 years, like 6 or 7 years ago, when it was originally put in for those, the response we got is, you're going in the hole on your utilities, don't come asking us for money unless you're charging a rate appropriate. And so there was a rate study done that determined how, and their recommendation was to keep ahead of it with a resolution like this. And it has worked well.
When was the last time I'm sorry.
No, at the
Councilmember
last
Rude.
meeting at 4, did I hear correctly that this wasn't adjusted for 20 years?
Before that.
Before.
More that, okay,
So that was when, what he was talking about, the rate. So when they determine your payback on the bond and stuff, they look at the user rates and stuff. And if you aren't, they have target rates. So if you're not at that, you have to get your users up to that target rate to even be eligible. So it was a huge jump. And a lot of people were pretty upset
Yeah.
about that.
It was
So-
painful because we didn't keep up with it.
and I suggest at the public hearing that we give a little historic reference to this, that,
Yeah.
to ease the pain, because, that we're doing this because it's good for us in the long term and getting funding and grants, but, it's just a little reference to our history with this, deal.
Of what happens if you
Yeah.
just keep the rate.
You don't.
And to your point, the public was really happy about having $15 or $30 rates because they hadn't been changed forever and ever. And until the point when you did change it, and it was
Yeah.
a huge rate. And at that point, this, that was actually stepped over 5 years or 3-year period.
It was a 3-year.
As was a 3-year period, which is, I think is the one you were referring to. There was a gradual 3-year step up with some rather painful adjustments.
Every year.
And then this 5-year period, which is the slow and gradual based on inflation to go with that.
All right, well,
My question was going to be, when was the last time we had a rate study done, and how often do we need to do those?
So every time we get, like, when we go out for a bond, so our current bond that we're going for the water, the 16-inch main, they look at our rates and stuff. So if our rates aren't there, that might trigger a rate study and stuff. But since we're keeping ours,
So it didn't trigger one when we applied?
no.
Okay, good.
So I think
No, we're
I think
still-
the answer is there's not a regular period that is set, but anytime it doesn't pass the smell test, they flag it and say,
Okay.
you're not eligible, and we do a rate study to determine how. So the 3-year escalation was the result of a rate study,
Right.
and then the inflation supposedly keeps us, so we don't have to do
So-
that.
Did they tell you how close we were? Were we like so many % over, or were we
They
really
did
close
at that time
to-
because that's where those rates for those 3 years was set.
No, the last one that we
Oh,
did.
the most recent
I
one?
think they did, I don't think.
I would be curious.
But they do send us when they do the
Like you're-
calculations.
You're within 5%, you're good, or you're,
20%
over.
over.
I can't remember, but I know they said that our
Okay.
rates are.
Okay.
I will add that we will be doing sometime in the future an impact fees study
Yes.
that we do every 5 years. Or we should be doing every 5 years. So we have that on the agenda to do. And that kind of gets into that same realm as well.
Just
Councilmember Tupin.
those numbers, if you do have those, because you said they threw a bunch at you, it might be beneficial to have those available for the public hearing. That'd be great.
See if they can tell us where we are. Thank you.
I think that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Yep.
Setting up for success is a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion at the table? All right, I did do public hearing on this.
No.
No.
I did not do public hearing, that was the last one.
Wait,
No, I didn't, all right.
We just talked about
Any
the word
questions
public
at the table
hearing.
before I go to public hearing on the
Comment.
resolution
this
of
is a
intent?
public comment, that's,
I'm sorry, public comment,
that's
not,
why.
there we go. All right, so I'm gonna open it up to public comment regarding the resolution of intent to set our rates on a regular schedule to update themselves automatically. Opening public comment, nothing in the chamber is going to online. Seeing nothing going once, twice, 3 times, public comment is closed. All right, back to the table, last chance for discussion. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Conley?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes,
Tippin?
Yeah.
All right, motion passes. All right, at this point, for the benefit of the audience, I know that took us an hour, but hopefully we kind of went through, the action items, relatively quickly and efficiently, while addressing all the appropriate, public municipality protocols. Part of how that is possible is because we use the second half of our meeting for council to share amongst the full council the discussions that have been taking place among the individual, standing committees. And so with that in mind, what we'll do is we'll move on to the second half of the agenda. And what we'll do is we'll start out by going to those individual standing committee chairs to update us on theirs. And so we will start with Public Health and Safety, and for that update, I will look to Councilmember Conley.
Yes. Chief Schrock reported 203 calls for service with 29 new cases generated, as you'll see in your packet. We discussed the ordinance 941 dumpsters. Of course, the overflowing dumpsters we tried to address, particularly during the summer. I talked to Tom Kuntz, and he said the biggest problem there was on those 3-day weekends. So when the Monday was a formal holiday and they weren't working, that meant that the dumpsters definitely were overflowing. And I believe the mayor was going to see if he could address that issue with Republic or whoever wins the bid.
We'll put that as part of our
Even though
Contract,
they're
or just-
individually contracted with the businesses?
yeah, we've got to figure out how we're gonna do that. Basically, just say that they will do, so yeah, there's some squishy stuff there, but we'll figure out how to address that.
No, I think that's
Anyway,
great.
the committee felt the rest of the ordinance is ready for its first reading at our next meeting.
You say they were or were not?
Will be ready for the first reading.
So which ones will be ready?
That's 941 dumpsters.
Okay.
Ordinance 910, snow, we don't feel as rushed anymore, although.
I never know.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Can I get a consensus that 941 is ready to move to the, I didn't pick that up today, so I'm just, is council okay moving with, because we didn't have it in the packet for anybody to look at this time.
This time, it was in there last
So when you say, but you said for first reading, it's gonna be in the below the fold, or it's gonna be for first reading?
Oh, okay, we'll put it below the fold for the next
Okay.
reading. So I'll put that on here.
I would like to, get a response from whoever wins the contract on how they can help address those 3-day weekend overflowing dumpsters.
Okay,
And the deadline for that RFP is when now?
May 30, last day of May,
Last day of May, got it.
so just in a couple weeks.
31st of May.
Got it.
Good. Ordinance 910, snow, discussion led to asking the council for some input. Currently, it is believed as the city clears the sidewalk south of downtown, should the city also clear the sidewalks north of town? Right now, that area is exempted from any sidewalk cleaning by the adjacent businesses, but, we were discussing to be consistent, if in fact, the city is clearing the sidewalks south of town, and not north of town, we thought that maybe they should do both. It was brought up that the sidewalks south of town also serve 3 motels down there, so that we have visitors walking those sidewalks, not so much at the north end of town, but on the south end. And that perhaps that's why it started. And
Councilmember Rood?
Just to distinguish north from south, because north and south is separated at 11th Street, which is right downtown. I think we're talking about, we should make a street designation.
South of 19th, north of the roundabout.
Yes, okay,
Yes?
yes,
okay.
so south of 19th and north of roundabout, okay.
And to put a little input on that, just, I think a big reason that part of the south of town, south of 19th, was starting to get plowed is specifically the river access and the public space versus more of, and granted, don't get me wrong, they're still doing a lot of that private business space as well. But I think that was one of the primary purposes of them doing that in the south of 19th. And so I'm thinking of north of the roundabout, we have fire department, and they're usually pretty good about clearing. But there's also just some abandoned buildings that are.
Well, on the other side of the road, you have the gas station that has
Yep.
a sidewalk.
Yep.
You have the tire store that has a sidewalk.
Yep, ProCut.
ProCut actually does clear their sidewalk.
Yeah, because I would imagine they would.
But we also, of anybody,
Yeah.
but we also have to keep in mind that when the state widens that highway and puts in sidewalks, if we put in here that the city's gonna take care of it, then the city's gonna take care of it.
I'm just more concerned with the north of the roundabout, how much traffic, foot traffic, that's truly getting, that would, if, I feel like if it was getting a lot of foot traffic and it was a lot of land that needed plowing, it didn't really have someone to actually do that, then maybe the city would take that on, but when I look at it, you're walking to ProCut, I don't see a lot of people walking to ProCut. You can please some feedback,
Well, there is a hotel down there, the Alpine
Yep,
Lodge.
and they're usually closed in the
And
winter.
there's a lot of, Beartooth Industry, people that walk there. They could go anywhere they want, a lot of them. I wave at a lot of them, they're on the sidewalks.
Okay.
And there's one other thing I was gonna say.
Hospital?
Well, the hospital, I don't think that many people walk to the
There's not even
hospital.
a sidewalk
I
that
hope they
connects
will
the
someday,
hospital.
but right now it's a little dangerous. I think they go to Family Dollar and back.
That's a good point,
If,
yeah.
if I may, we didn't have this listed on the main agenda
Right,
under public health and safety, and so I'm a little
Yeah,
concerned about having too much of that conversation without giving the notice, the public appropriate heads up.
Mhm.
So is the desire to put that, snow ordinance on for council discussion
Yeah.
next week, and then we can notify the public and get that input?
And
yeah,
I do just want to say, we did get a letter from, was it Bill Boise that sent
yes,
the
we
letter?
did.
Yeah, and he had some great points on why it should be plowed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying
So,
it shouldn't have.
no,
to-
I'm just saying if we all went back and reviewed that letter too,
Yeah.
because I think he had some good points in
We
there.
could include that as well.
Yeah.
I'll put it
Okay, so before we have any more in-depth discussion at the table, we'll put that on the, below the fold
Okay.
on the council portion of the agenda next time.
And, we didn't do a resolution for snow yet, since we haven't really finished the snow ordinance. And, but there was a discussion that currently business owners get a 24-hour notice to remove snow, and if not done, the city can remove it. Then, if those same businesses do not clear again, then they get a notice for the first, a $50 fine for the second, and a $100 fine for the third. If they are cited again, and they're cited under MCA as, maintaining a public nuisance.
Councilmember Conley, this sounds like we're getting into the details that we didn't have noticed on the main agenda.
The
Can
question
we-
that I had
Okay.
here was the amount of the fines.
Okay.
And we were talking that a fine is to try to bring people into compliance. If it costs $50 to clear your snow off your sidewalk, and the fine is $50, they're gonna take the fine because it's easier. So we were talking about doubling those fines, and I didn't know how the city council felt about that.
They also get charged for the snow removal.
Yeah, that's the big
It's not free snow removal.
It
So
doesn't,
if
it
the
doesn't
city-
state that,
It does.
It does,
It
the
does.
current ordinance states that.
it states that the first, and then it was additionally. So it's not super clear in that
Right,
ordinance.
so you could clean up the wording of it. But regardless, you get charged for the snow removal, just like you get charged for, if we have to go mow your weeds.
Well, the top
So-
part says that we can clear it. The bottom part of that ordinance says additionally, you get a notice, and then you get fined $50. So, which is it?
Both.
I'm gonna go ahead and put it
Okay.
into the details discussion. Let's go ahead and put that on the main agenda next time.
Okay, with
'Cause-
copies?
Because we had it on the standing committee agenda, so I think that's fair to have a discussion there. We didn't have it here, so I don't think it's fair to have that discussion without giving the public a heads up.
Okay, I'll include all those things. Again, we discussed 904, ordinance 904, animals. We've been discussing this for months, dangerous versus vicious dogs. It was agreed that we're going to send it over to the chief and Dennison and the judge to give us some input before we proceed.
I thought they already did.
The judge did.
Oh, okay.
At our previous meeting, Sergeant Landon Brown gave us a few ordinances he felt needed to be amended. It was agreed that we should also run those past, Dennison and the chief before proceeding. Topics included nudity, peddlers, and soliciting. Those three topics he felt that our ordinances.
Soliciting nude peddlers?
No, I did it the other way this
Heavily
time.
nude?
I did not reverse those. I was very careful.
We currently have an ordinance in place on
Nudity.
peddling.
And we have one on nudity as well.
Yeah,
But
you're not supposed to go
cries.
door to door.
It cries out.
Okay. you need to-
And Sergeant, Brown had given us some suggested wordings or changes for that. But again, that's gonna need to go back and look, Dennison needs to look at it, and, same with the chief. I don't believe he's seen it yet.
All right, any questions for Public Health and Safety Standing Committee? Thank you, Councilmember Conley.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Admin and Finance, and for that, I will look to, Councilmember Running.
Committee chair.
Committee Chair Running.
Mm.
Well, we already had the Jody Show in action items, because those were all discussed today. And it was. And today, the only other thing, two things that we talked about. Number one, the resolution to create ballot language. And there is a resolution in your packet, when the voters voted to allow, to make recreational marijuana legal, at that time, when they did that, it made it so that it was legal in the city limits, cultivators, commercial grow operations, manufacturing, medical marijuana dispensary, adult use dispensaries, combined use marijuana license, testing laboratories, and marijuana transporter facilities. We have, set up a system, so we only have 2 licenses. And our, city attorney has determined that those 2 licenses covers any of these that are on here. So what we wanted to do, we've been getting some feedback, and specifically too from our current, dispensary owners, that, commercial grow operations, we also got this from planning board, that there's really not any place in the city limits of Red Lodge to have a grow operation. And that would be the one thing that, general public probably would not necessarily want in the city limits of Red Lodge. But the only way to change that is to put it back to the voters and say, you know, are you for allowing commercial grow facilities in the city limits of Red Lodge, or are you against? So, we did have a brief discussion also on the manufacturing part of it. We're gonna hold off on putting that in front of the voters because we may not need to. The main concern with that was that it was a more industrial type, use. And there are some manufacturing where some manufacturers use, butane, which is a highly explosive, gas. And, but we are going to, as a committee, do more research on that. And if there's other ways to manufacture what they're doing without using highly explosive things, we may not have to put that in front of the voters. We may just create some guardrails around it, or rails around it.
Double check all the pieces and make sure we have a better understanding on the topic.
And make sure that, we may have to, if they are manufacturing, just like we did with the short-term rentals, add some additional safety requirements for that, and, working with, so that's that. So does anybody have any?
Is council okay with moving that forward for action at the next meeting? Okay. That'll give us all sorts of time, and then ultimately that'll go to the voters, because the voters are the ones who said all 7 of those categories are legal, and only the voters can say one of them is not.
And we are definitely going to add commercial cultivator,
Yes.
so that people know that we're not after their personal marijuana.
And that's
Enjoy your
it
break.
doesn't disappear.
That's your copy?
Well, that's my writing. Oh, that's yours. Oh, no. Mine I gave to you.
Okay.
Maybe I gave it to them.
You can have it.
No, you have yours. You're good.
I don't need
I
it.
gave it to somebody to make sure that it says commercial for edited, and it may have been the chief.
He's been doing this to me all day long.
Anything else, committee chair
Well,
Ronnie?
the other thing that we started, and it was in your was this in the packet?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Everyone, this is the first draft of our next year's budget. And it is in the packet. Future admin and finance meetings, what we typically do is we go through it line by line at a meeting. And, so that we as the admin and finance committee, understand it, so we can answer any questions. Mayor Dave is going to work with the department heads to, do presentations for us for their budget, like, as we did last year. And the resort tax committee, may or may not be also, discussing the resort tax budget. But we will see. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, so.
Only thing I'll add to that is generally how this process does work is the admin and finance committee goes through it line by line, highlights our questions, so we have that prepared, talk with staff members about that ahead of time so we can address those questions. One thing that we do encourage is public to do the same, as well as other council members. Just go through there, and if you have questions, we can have that meeting and more than one person can show. So like, by all means, show up to that draft meeting, because it is really beneficial to hear where that budget is going. And with how this budget's drafted, it will show you the percentages over years, so you can see those dramatic changes and any influx, which I think is very beneficial to note.
It's worth to note that the council's role in those positions is not micromanaging the budgets. That's my job. But they do ask questions to say, these questions should be answered if you'd like us to go through and approve the budget.
What are you buying that makes it a 2,000% increase? Over last year.
And I have not met with Mike yet, but other than that, I have met and gone through the individual budgets line by line, with Lonnie and the department heads. What's that?
You gotta look.
You can have a look, didn't I, because you and I haven't gone over my budget.
No, we haven't got over, or Lonnie. And Lonnie's is kind of tricky because a lot of that stuff is spread around
She writes them.
through the different funds. That's the truth. I haven't talked to Mike or Lonnie. Oh, but there will be a conversation.
Meeting date is to TBD, just because it will be a 2-hour meeting, and we will have some potential for change up of seats. We're not sure exactly at this time, so.
Anything else that we discussed in admin and finance you feel we need to?
I think you covered all of it. You did a great job. Thank you for doing that.
All right. Any questions for admin and finance from the rest of council? All right, seeing none, let's go to committee chair. Well, hold on, let me get to the right one. Let's go to committee chair Tupin for, land use and planning update.
Apologies as I scroll through that draft. Okay, so we have been working on, the resolution for, additional provisions for the permitted use of Pride Park. We have brought this to the table for discussion already. We had a further discussion on it today, and, there's only a few small changes from the copy that you'll see within your packet. We do need to get a resolution number attached to that, but we would like to have that up for action at the next meeting. One change that we did add per some community input, on Monday was specifically the, garden club. Is that right?
The MOU.
Yeah, making sure that the folks that have an MOU within that park, don't have additional restrictions added onto them, essentially preventing them for doing what they have already agreed to within those MOUs. So the specific language that we'd be adding would be underline item 1F. The additional restrictions will not apply to parties with active MOUs with the city pertaining to Pride Park, or inhibit the parties' ability to use the park as agreed upon per the MOU. So that just kind of protects their use and making sure that they still have the ability to come in and do some of their events, as well as maintenance that they've just so graciously provide throughout the year. So, we think that that is a good addition. There's also some legal changes that Dennison had provided, so I will have those included for next week.
Okay. Is Council Wright moving that forward to action next week?
Yes,
Councilmember Ruth?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just, how did this come up? Did somebody complain or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
so there were some issues with last summer, people that were getting permits to use the park during some high volume events. And specifically blocking chairs, blocking right-of-way access.
What were they doing in the park?
They were selling items,
Okay.
running sales.
Oh,
And they had a lot of items that were strewn about the seating. There was actually
Oh.
some damage done to the flowers as well.
Okay.
So specifically, that's what brought the attention to it, and with it being such a small park, and really our only public park within the downtown
Right.
area, that green space where people can sit and enjoy the shade, no matter what time of year. And so this just creates some additional regulations to where we can still encourage folks to come and use that space, share their talent, share what their whatever they want to use that for, but just with some guardrails to make sure that it's accessible for everybody.
And not that it really matters, did they have a business license?
They did, yes.
Okay.
They had a business license, they were permitted, they did everything the right way.
They did.
And so that's where it actually showed that we had a hole.
And I may add a little bit to that. So part of that came from a staff position of approving events, where it's like, are we really just handling Pride Park just like we do every other park? Somebody puts an ad in it, and so the question to council was, is that the intent of council, or do you want some guardrails to be put there? And council said, we'd like to put some guardrails in. Staff really can't, and I mean, we can enforce with some guidance, but ultimately to fix it, that's council's purview to decide where those guardrails are.
And we didn't want to eliminate use entirely either. We thought that it was, and we think it adds
There were
character.
discussions about commercial, not commercial. There was all sorts of things that were discussed, and this is actually a significantly whittled down, I think, from some of the.
Yeah, there was some pretty substantial, like, block it to everyone. Like, but we also see the benefit of being able to utilize that space.
Okay,
So,
all right. Thank you.
And I just have, Pride Park will not be available for permitted use during any event taking place on the section of Broadway adjacent to the park.
Yes.
So if it's like the 4th of July parade,
Correct.
you cannot.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that type of thing.
Or the car
Or the
show.
car show.
Exactly.
Or the, yeah,
Car
okay.
show,
yeah, so if
the
it's,
father might not. be very happy.
well,
No, you just can't have like a big.
so essentially, yes, it makes it to where whenever there's an increased volume of people, or congestion on Main Street, there's a place for them to go.
And rest, exactly.
All right.
Okay,
So are we okay moving that forward?
yes, I am.
All right.
The only other thing for land use and planning is now that we are in the summer and Cinta is out of school, we are going
Oh,
to
yeah.
summer hours.
Hours.
She's so happy.
So instead of our meetings being scheduled at 4:30 on Mondays, we will be moving those to 10 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Beautiful.
So that will be nice for everyone. We have some fun things on the docket, so stay tuned for
10
land use
PM.
and planning.
Which also eliminates the Memorial Day conflict of the meeting, because it won't be on Monday, it'll be on Tuesday. Okay. And I have responsibility for making sure that gets updated on the website and the
Summer hours.
All right, any other questions for land use and planning? All right, let's go to Public Works, and to that, I'll look to Committee Chair Ronnie.
Okay, so, we're up for discussion tonight, resolution to grant approval for the property acquisition. Did you want to explain that?
I can do that. So
Thank
this is associated with the 16-inch bypass project. As we go through those and we get our funding sources, which is great, we love it when other people give us money to pay for things or half and whatnot. And one of the requirements is, please submit documentation showing that, you are not on anybody's private land or that you have easements to do that. And it turns out that we have a street and a water line and a sewer line and all sorts of utilities that are across the corner of somebody's property from years and years back. And so, we reached out and been in negotiations with that property owner. The method is, we can, pay for that access. We cannot pay more than what the property is worth, so we're limited to that. So the steps have been taken up to this point is we have done an appraisal. We have done a survey. The appraisal, dictates a cost for the lot separately from the house, as those appraisals do. Anybody who's had a home appraisal recognizes that. So that determines a square foot for cost mapping. And then we had a survey company come down and we agreed on where those lines are gonna be. And so that documentation is also in your packet. And then there's basically a buy-sell agreement. And so what this is going to do, if you look at that buy-sell agreement, is it allows us to enter that for 1,274 square feet. It authorizes me to go ahead and enter into that buy-sell agreement so that we can acquire that land. The dollars to acquire it are gonna be coming from the projects that are impacted, AKA water, sewer, et cetera. So that's where the cost to do that is gonna be. Off the top of my head, I wanna say it's gonna be about 15 to 20,000 as what we found in there. And as I said, it's whatever the math works out to, and there's been 2 or 3 different times when somebody changed one of the numbers of the variables. At one point, I think it was 14, or it wasn't, nobody's going to Mexico on it.
I
That's
like the way
from
cheaper than
Mexico.
that.
Twice.
I lived there for a year. Question on that, so how many square feet?
1,274.
Okay. Hot day.
That's a significant size if you,
It's a good size, but dang. Anyway, continue.
yeah. So it's whatever the square foot of the appraisal
Okay.
works out to.
Are we gonna have an opportunity to see that appraisal?
Yeah, I think we can. So the appraisal was because the property had been appraised in the previous year, we're going with that. I will tell you that we have seen it. Let me look in to see if it's a public,
Okay.
if it's a public document or if it's not a public document.
Yeah, mostly
and
it'd be
therefore-
good to have a public actual amount.
Yeah, and we will have that was gonna be signed this morning, and we would have all those actual real numbers.
Okay.
That just has not, the signature has not, the parties have not gotten together yet.
Okay.
The party will be signing their part. I'm just waiting to sign the city's part until you guys say it's okay.
Okay.
Are we okay moving that forward for action next time? Or are there any other questions?
I
that
have
you
a
want
lot
me
of
to-
questions on it.
Yep.
Okay,
First off, it says, whereas a portion of private property encroaches upon White. I think it's the city who is encroached on the private property, not the private property encroaching.
okay.
Is that correct?
That is a true statement.
And I pulled the certificates of survey 1068 RB and 1818 third amended, but really, the legal description, which isn't anywhere in here or in the buy-sell,
That's terrifying.
I know it's terrifying, is the south half of lot 8 and lots 9 and 10 in the Heimer subdivision. So I don't know why these other two, certificates of survey are included, but they're kind of weird, as we know that, you know, every time they do one, it's a little bit different than the one before.
And there've been 2 or 3 or 4 that they've pulled through there, and we tried to whittle it down, not to over.
But I do think that we need to refer to the legal description, not the street address.
Yeah.
Us
Okay,
as real
that's
estate
in
kind of,
the,
that's in the resolution itself.
I'm looking for where that is, and where's the address? Oh,
Okay, well,
1813 changed to,
well,
no.
Heimer's addition is fine, but it should say that that's the south half of lot 8 and lots 9 and 10 on the Heimers. That
Okay, so
really
legal
nails it
description.
down.
okay?
And I noticed in the buy-sell, the same thing, is that it refers to the street address and not the, legal description.
Yeah, it says legal description, it's a portion of 1123, that is not a legal description.
Okay, so legal description.
Well, it
Question-
does say the parties agree that the exact legal description shall be set forth in the survey and preliminary title insurance commitment.
So there will be a new.
There will be one.
There will be a new one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it has to be resurveyed, so.
I was also kind of curious, even though it says, you know, that a lot of, what we consider closing costs, and this is referred to as closing costs, we generally, like on number 10, refer to it as a closing fee,
Okay,
because closing costs include everything. To us, a closing cost is the title insurance, proration of taxes, the fraud endorsement, the cost for the you know, all of those are closing costs. But the closing fee, I think that you're you're referring to the title,
it's all of the, so we are covering all of the costs associated with the acquisition.
including the
'cause we're
taxes,
I would say not
proration of taxes. So
So,
the closing, I think I would prefer to say closing fee instead of closing costs,
okay,
because those to us are two different things.
will you accept the assignment of reaching out to the city attorney with your concerns and addresses to
Because-
do that?
Yeah, because this says it'd be good for us,
Mhm.
because we've assumed a lot of the expense. But, generally, it's a closing fee that is split between the seller and the buyer.
And so the splitting is not happening just because of
The
the work?
splitting of it's really the title escrow officer, and generally, this will be cash, so it'd be $800,
Okay.
so each side gets 400, and that's a closing fee. And usually you see that in a buy-sell agreement, that they split that cost.
And we won't be doing that here.
You're gonna pay the entire,
We are gonna pay all of the closing fees and be content for the $500,000 less.
so
of
everything
this
but
year than doing it
proration of
next year.
taxes.
I think taxes would be appropriate to be theirs.
Okay, so,
Prorated, and that's mentioned under item
and the
B.
city's gonna pay for the title insurance, that they have to say that they have the right to sell it. So you're gonna pay for that, the city's
We're
gonna pay
covering
for
all of the costs involved.
all costs. So,
So let me
I'll
back
talk to
up a little
Dennison
bit.
on that.
Are you comfortable, because this is a two-part question, are you comfortable heading this up because of your expertise with the city attorney to make sure we address the questions?
Yeah,
Okay, and then my follow-up is, council comfortable if I
I think
have Councilmember Conley do that and be responsible for those changes that'll come to us next time? Everybody here will get to weigh in on them.
Sure, no,
But-
I'm not concerned about any of the remarks that she's making, because
Right.
I would agree with a lot of those remarks.
And we've got
And
two of
so-
you with expertise, so I would say kind of work together, but I'd like to put somebody in charge. So if you'll reach out to the city attorney, and if you would please CC me,
I will.
just so that we don't get into the,
I'll have one there.
that category of council directing staff. You're asking questions and saying, I have some questions we need to observe, but I'm there, so that will smooth
Perfect.
any,
Ruffled?
yes.
Okay.
I don't know if this matters or not, city council, it's
That-
another.
That
I don't
should
know
be
if that's
an IL.
To match
By
or
the
not?
council, because we have a council and we are council. So, okay.
Okay, I don't know if
So
that
we're-
matters now or
okay.
not.
Yeah.
City attorney or is that city
Well, we
council?
tried to talk about, yes.
She's
So the second to the last whereas, make sure we have the right council, addressed or,
It is
Indicated.
subject to us, not the city council.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
council of the council.
Council has told us
I'm
the
so
council.
glad I have
approved it.
another proofreader.
I know.
love it.
We have
It is
another
wonderful.
person.
I do.
No, that's great.
Okay, so,
Take some
just to
refresher
summarize
on
where we are. Councilmember Conley is gonna reach out to the city attorney
Mhm.
to address within the resolution to make sure it's there. The understanding has been relayed that as a city, we are covering the cost because we benefit from it. Because there was another version of this, do we just take it to court and fight it and say we have an easement? But the problem is that takes a year, it's bad manners, and it costs us significantly more next year than it would cost us to buy the land.
Just to do it.
To do it right and uprightly and straightforward and transparently.
And I believe that the four things I'm going to discuss with him is that the city's the one that's encroaching.
Okay.
And that the legal description would be included in the first whereas. The legal description as in the south half, the lot numbers and all of that.
And we should be able to do that since the survey has been done now. We should be able to do
Well, that
that.
identifies the basic land. And then, add the current legal description on number 1 of the buy-sell.
So 2 adjustments to the resolution and the rest are actually to the buy-sell.
Correct. And
Okay.
then, referring to the closing costs, I think, I'll talk with Dennison and see whether he just wants to say that the city will pay all closing costs with the exception of the proration of taxes. And that to me would be
That is in line with
simple.
with the intent that has happened up to this point.
It looked like that there was there was a lot of that in there.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll talk to Dennison. And copy you.
So we good with that being in up for action next time?
Yes.
And then I will see it, because if the landowner makes that documentation available, then I have no problem including it. It's just, at this point, it's their document and private.
Big thing, I just wanna know what the final purchase price is.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair for the public to know as well.
Absolutely agree,
I don't
100%.
necessarily need to see the whole damn appraisal, just.
Just the cost per square foot.
The cost per square foot.
Just want that number.
The numbers.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for that discussion.
Okay, next up, we do have resolution number 3694, a resolution of intent to award the 16-inch bypass project for the city of Red Lodge. This also has to do with what we just discussed.
And it was gonna be up for action this week before it was discovered that the bid opening was set for today rather than last Thursday, which made it really not possible to do it beforehand. So we're basically just pushing this 2 weeks.
So if anybody has any questions about that, it's just,
And to answer the question that didn't come up yet, there is not a dependency between the two, meaning we can award the bid and move forward. We just aren't allowed to get the money and start with the actual project, which is still several weeks out, until after we have a signed buy-sell.
if everybody's okay, that'll be above the fold next time. And then, next up is.
Finally.
I know, you're very last on the agenda here. Resolution, to approve planting a living tree stand in Van Dyke Park. There's some great photos of the trees that they will be planting. The Wichita Blue, Rocky Mountain junipers. Let's see, did you have some comments on this? I heard you have some
Oh,
comments.
yes, the only comments that I had is within the therefores. I do think that there should be some language amending the MOU just for who will be taking care of those plants and what that looks like. I don't have any specific terms for that at this point, but just specifically, you know,
The MSU shall be updated to include terms.
yep, that, just making sure that the maintenance is the responsibility of the Heroes Esteem and the observatory.
Do you want to take the responsibility for those edits for next time?
Yes, totally do.
Okay. So, we do have, Teresa here, and, so if anyone has any questions, she is available to answer those questions. I think we all know. And Doug, yes, I'm sorry, yes, I heard you
So-
were amazing with
So
all
for
your
the two
knowledge.
groups, so Doug came yesterday, to the land use, and so part of the reason we selected this format, there's already a different track in action on, putting in a step-by-step process of if somebody wants to change the use of city hall. We're trying to decide if somebody wants to add a bench to the dog park, what does that process look like? Somebody wants to add a tree to a park and name it after Bob, what does that process look like? And based on feedback through these discussions and specific council members individually, one-on-one, the feel was this is not quite in that category, but having not yet completed that process, how do we move it forward? So this resolution was an effort on my part to capture the intents of the council discussed thus far and have a possibility of getting this planted. If we do this next time for action, if people are comfortable with it, that gives us the ability of having trees planted at the beginning of this year. Otherwise, they would be planted in the fall because we don't want to do it in the middle of the heat. And so, as I said, it's not an attempt to rush something through. There's a little bit of this is kind of a little bit of our mix of sometimes the ship has to keep moving while we're still building the heavy duty stuff.
And my understanding is that it has gone in front of, Parks
It has,
Board,
and that's
and that
referenced
they
in
do,
it.
and they do support it, so.
And Public Works was also on part with it. This was after they had looked at trees all the way along the road. There was concerns about drifting. Some of the questions that have been raised in the standing committees, was this is creating a visual block, so you're not seeing a building, and there was a concern with creating that. I think that's a fair council discussion.
I think it
There-
was the opposite, where we were happy about
Yeah,
covering the
this-
building.
Okay, so, and that was part of the discussion. There was some concern that has been expressed by the public. It was also expressed in some of the standing committee meetings, and we tried to isolate it to this particular request, as opposed to, this is not an attempt to dredge up the past or whatnot, because it was a concern, and then what's next, and then what's next. So this is just about this, and this is just to address that, and hopefully we will get a chance to finish the process before we get to any of those other things.
I think it's a great solution to an issue that has, that they've been trying to find a solution for, Parks Board, and I think it's just the next logical step in helping to mitigate, what they consider, the light pollution from the lights up there, so I hope it works.
I think it was nice, like,
I know, yeah.
big fan of trees.
Are there any questions at the table? And I'll open that to exclude, are there any questions from the parties who are here tonight, if there are questions want to be directed to them?
I don't have any questions.
They did a great job of outlining it. I think
Yeah.
it's good.
Will
So,
will the trees also mitigate the light from people driving on the road?
yes, I'll let them, I think to some extent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, not because the road runs, light will come in as people come around the corner, but as they get closer to the observatory, the trees.
Or the other direction as
And a
well?
lot of people park right across from there, and the trees will have a good effect as they back out of
The
park.
closer you're standing to the trees, the wider the angle is that it'll
Right.
block.
Yeah, the question that I had heard was that then they're gonna have trouble with the cars coming, so now we're gonna plant trees on either side as well.
We don't have anything like that in front of us.
So at this point, the request is for this particular tree stand,
Mhm.
and we'll try to limit the discussion for that. There will be, when you have this up for discussion, there will be public comment. I would encourage you to both to be there, all three to be there, for that in 2 weeks. So we can hear that public comment before we take action. At the same point, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm opening a can of worms by doing this. I know we have some folks online as well. We'll wait and do the public comment when we've
Yeah.
got a public comment there.
It's just
I
that,
agree, next week.
There'll
Yeah.
be plenty of
I
opportunity.
think, is everybody ready for it to be?
Okay, are you, as
Yeah.
council comfortable with this
Yeah.
moving forward with the edits that
Yes.
Councilmember Tupin outlined?
Just
All
get
right.
those trees.
Okay, so we will move that forward to the actions.
Yeah.
From the tree to the wall.
Well, she has it.
Okay, I must.
All right, is there any further questions for Public Works from the rest of council?
I think everything else has been covered. The CIP is, Mayor alluded to, is,
You probably have it.
please
somewhere.
review it again, please,
Sorry.
the CIP, please review it.
Okay,
Very important document.
Okay.
Do you guys have a question?
Councilmember
look at
Davis, do you have questions?
No, I'm good, thank
Okay,
you.
all right.
You want that?
Okay, any correspondence that people need to add or mention to make sure it gets included in the packet for next time? All right, hearing none, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Same rules, please address your comments to me. The public may address the table on anything within the council's purview, and we'll go ahead and open the public comment at this time. I'll look to the room, step up, and please identify yourself.
Lisa Whistler, resident 614 South Don Ray, representing Hero Steam Center. Just wanted to say thank you for the work that you've done in land use and planning, as well as Public Works to consider our resolution for the tree stand and Van Dyke. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment from the chamber? Hearing none, we'll go to public comment online and see, it kind of works out. So, public comment online, anybody who'd like to address the council at this time? Turn on a camera or come off mute. Going once, twice, 3 times, we'll go ahead and close public comment. All right, and with that, as is tradition, could I get some help? Could you make a motion for item number 13, please?
Okay, make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Yay!
Meeting adjourned.
Welcome, Patty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
You have now been